Welcome to a moment of memory. Havdala, or Havdala, is a celebration of the senses. We have the sight and the warmth of the candlelight in a special candle designed for Havdala, the multiple wicks entwined with each other, bringing together the many strands of our lives. We have the smell of the sweet spices, reminding us of the joy of Shabbat through the entire week. We have the taste of wine that reminds us of the sweetness of life together. And at the very end of Havdala, when a distinction is made between the time before and the time beginning, we combine the wine and the candle together, and the sound of that extinguished candle brings together all of our senses in that one moment to remind us of the specialness, of the uniqueness of that celebration. Havdala is a ceremony that celebrates ends and beginnings, the end of Shabbat and the beginning of the week. It is a ceremony that brings our senses and our sense of time together to make this moment memorable. This evening we celebrate the past and the present and the future. We celebrate our founding rabbi, Sherwin, even though he is gone, through the Lifetime Achievement Award that was named in his honor, an award that's conferred for years of hard work in the cause of humanistic Judaism. Tonight we celebrate a crucial moment in the history of Jewish civilization, the 10th anniversary of the ordination of the first secular humanistic rabbi. And this moment is personally important to many people in this room, no more so than the two accomplished women who will be ordained as rabbis this evening. Their scholarship and their accomplishments have brought them to this point, and they deserve to treasure this exact moment. But we can't help to wonder what they will do from here on, what their future holds as secular humanistic rabbis, and what they will contribute to our movement. And for that, we will have to wait to hear from them. But we begin our celebration with our song of community, of individual strength, and also of the strength we draw from each other, Eifo Ori, on the first page of your service booklet.
Please sing along.
The readers in our service this evening will be leaders in our movement and rabbis ordained by this institute. They will be Rabbi Sivan Malkin Mas, the dean of our institute in Israel, Rabbi Eva Goldfinger and Rabbi Miriam Jeris, Rabbi Ben Biber and Rabbi Greg Epstein, Rabbi Judith Seid, and myself, Rabbi Adam Shalom, and our soon-to-be rabbis, Karen Levy and Jodi Kornfeld. And so I invite to this podium on a reading of Havdala, Marking Difference, the poem On the Border of Light, Rabbi Sivan Mas.
This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back my brother, my sister, or cross over. This is an hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? When Leah Goldberg wrote the song, she thought about change, about transformation, about benefit. That's what Tumura means, and this is the first line of the song in Hebrew. Zo shat Tumura, ba na'amod ilmim, al gvul ha'or, לאן יפנה ליבנו? האם נחזור, אחי, הנעבור? שבוע טוב.
Let us all sing together, Hine Matov.
Yain. Special moments are made special by being together. Havdala symbolizes a distinction between Shabbat and the rest of the week. The first symbol of Havdala is sharing wine. And wine is a symbol of the power of people. Humanity once found grapes in the wild. It was human effort, human creativity, human ingenuity that cultivated the vine, harvested the grape, pressed the fruit into juice, and fermented the juice into wine. In Jewish culture, wine celebrates the arrival of a child, the beginnings of maturity, the creation of loving partnerships, and moments of special achievement. Special moments are made special by being together.
Take my book away like I don't know it. Baruch ha'or ba'olam, Baruch ha'or ba'adam, Borei peri hagafen. And I say, Ken Yehi. Please join me in the Hebrew and then in the English. Baruch ha'or ba'olam, Baruch ha'or ba'adam, Borei peri hagafen. Blessed is the light in the world, blessed is the light of humanity that brings forth the fruit of the vine. Sure. You're going to have some too? Good. I'd like to welcome Bert Steinberg, past president of the Society for Humanistic Judaism, and the person who has established the Sherwin T. Wine Lifetime Achievement Award.
Thank you, Miriam. I've been asked to give you some background on the Sherwin Wine Lifetime Achievement Award. Many of you know me. I've been around for a while. Exactly 20 years ago, actually, next weekend, this New Yorker left for California, and his life changed. We met, and the first weekend that we were in California at a Jewish newcomers fair. A table that with some people representing the Northern California SHJ. Sounded like us, we joined, and frankly, my life has never been the same, and I'm, as I've said many times, grateful to SHJ and especially to Sherwin for the last 20 years that have been so wonderful for me and so different. Sherwin and I worked with Sherwin when I was with SHJ as president for a couple of years, and I got to know him very well. We became very close personal friends as well. I love the man, as we all did. But I have a little story I've got to tell you, which has something to do with the award, and which I don't think anybody, not even Bonnie, who knows everything that I ever thought, knows this part of the story. About 4 or 5 years after we were in California, we were attending a meeting such as this in Westport, Connecticut, because Roz Hill, who was then the SHJ president, was bar mitzvahing her son, and we had the meeting there, and we were all invited to the bar mitzvah. Now, I had never been bar mitzvah, and this was the first time I ever saw even a humanist bar mitzvah. And I had an idea, and I spoke to Sherwin that night, and I said, Sherwin, in about 1.5 years, I'll have my 75th birthday. Will you come to San Francisco and bar mitzvah me? And he did. He gave me some work to do, whatever, and 14 years ago, 14 years ago, I finally was bar mitzvah. Now, what has that got to do with the award? Well, about 6 or 7 years ago, I guess it's about 7 years now, Sherwin, we were going to celebrate Sherwin's 75th birthday, and we were going to do it at the conference in Toronto, and the conference could not be held because of some disease thing that was happening, and we had the conference here. And when I thought in terms of his 75th birthday and my 75th birthday and all that he had meant to me in the years in between, I was trying to think of what could I do, something that would be worthwhile and memorable to express to him all that I felt about him. And so the idea of the Lifetime Achievement Award in his name, not in his memory, in his name, was thought through. I kicked it around with Bonnie, and we announced it at the 2003 meeting. I was glad we did, of course, and oddly enough, about 1 year or so later, Sherwin said to me one day, actually it was when we made the first award in 2004, Bert, I'm glad you didn't wait until I died to do something like this. I'm glad I'll be able to see it. Unfortunately, his words became very, very meaningful. Now, the award is based on certain criteria which are published, and it's eligible for any member of SHJ who meets these criteria. There's a committee that was established consisting of the president of SHJ, the executive director, which did not apply this year, Sherwin, myself, and the 2 previous recipients of the award. And letters go out to the membership, and we get recommendations, and the committee makes its decision. So much for the award, but I'd like to just have a personal word about Bonnie. I guess everybody who's ever been associated with Bonnie will agree with me, and certainly anybody who served as president and had to work with her. I had the privilege of being in touch with her practically on a daily basis for 2 solid years. And if anybody can understand, appreciate, remember, whatever, what this woman does and what she means to the movement, well, then you don't know Bonnie. We love her. I love her. As she has often said, I talk my heart out to her all of the time, and I don't think there's anybody except maybe her personal friend, her personal family, who loves her as much as I do. And I can say this, there has not yet been any recipient of the award, and I doubt if there ever will be one in the future, who will deserve this honor more than Bonnie Cousens does. Bonnie?
Well, this is a wonderful and unique opportunity for me. Many of you may not know that I've known Bonnie for more than 40 years. Our association and friendship precedes Humanistic Judaism and has lasted longer than either of my 2 marriages. I used to envy people who spoke about how they could finish their partner's sentences. I've never really been able to do that with anybody except Bonnie. Our collaboration is something I value very much, and it has enriched my life immensely. When the Society needed help in 1979, Bonnie jumped in with her entire being, feet first, right up to her neck. She began working on the SHJ journal, Humanistic Judaism, started coordinating conferences. As many of you know, Bonnie's attention to detail is a fine, honed skill, and something that I lacked, still do. But Bonnie recently told me that her college statistics professor told her that she was too concrete. But her skill in being able to fully assess a situation and understand all its components has served us all very well. In 1995, Bonnie became the executive director of the Society, a job that she has done with dedication and with skill. So it is a great honor to invite the 2009 recipient of the Sherwin T. Wine Lifetime Achievement Award to join us. Now, the award has 3 components. The first you will see there. The second is that Bonnie's name will be added to the plaque that you can see outside the offices. I know.
They weren't supposed to make me cry.
Yeah, well, that's what we do. Outside the offices of the Society for Humanistic Judaism. And it also includes a gift of Judaica, which is right there, and Bonnie will be happy to unwrap it later for you to all see. It's a beautiful crystal star. Thank you. Lorraine knows exactly what it looks like. So, Bonnie, here we go.
Okay. I haven't seen this.
Yeah, can you imagine making anything happen in that office without Bonnie? Woo! Because M. Bonnie Cousens has represented our movement with excellence worldwide. This is a very long sentence. In the Jewish and humanist communities as a madricha, as the executive director of the Society for Humanistic Judaism, and as a board member of the International Institute for Secular Humanistic Judaism, the International Federation of Secular and Humanistic Jews, and the Secular Coalition for America. Because Bonnie Cousens has deep knowledge of humanistic Judaism and the ability to articulate and clarify issues and opportunities for our organization, Because Bonnie Cousens worked closely with Rabbi Wein in editing and producing his major intellectual contribution, Judaism Beyond God, and also produced many other SHJ and IISHJ publications. Because Bonnie Cousens puts her entire being into promoting and securing the future of humanistic Judaism and lives her values and commitments in deed as well as word. Because Bonnie Cousens holds the corporate memory for so many of our movements, organizations, and because Bonnie Cousens has helped us all with her dedication and her organizational talent, her superior analytic ability, and wise counsel for these many, many years, we, the leaders and members of the Society for Humanistic Judaism, are gratified to name M. Bonnie Cousens the recipient of the 2009 Rabbi Sherwin T. Wein Lifetime Achievement Award.
You're not supposed to make people cry when they have to talk. It's really very, very bad. Thank you. Awards recognize deeds. The Sherwin T. Wein Award is given to an individual who works to ensure Sherwin's legacy and fulfill his vision of a humanistic Jewish movement. I'm grateful to the Society for honoring me with this award, and to the people who were standing with me on this stage. They and others who came before them are the humanistic trailblazers who have helped to forge the path that I have followed. I first walked into this building 32 years ago. Like other young parents, my husband and I were synagogue shopping. We knew we wanted to give our kids a Jewish education, but ours was a mixed marriage. I was a conservative Jew from New York. He was a workman's circle atheist from Detroit. Where could we ever fit? The Birmingham Temple was the answer. I saw a temple, a rabbi, services, a Sunday school, everything that was familiar to me. He heard, no God. Our search was over. We had found a place where we could celebrate a Jewish identity as a family. Little did I know then where an evening with the rabbi would lead me. I realized that humanistic Judaism would enable us to provide our children with a Jewish identity that was consistent with the values of both my husband and myself. I learned very quickly that humanistic Judaism and the Birmingham Temple were unlike anything I had ever known. Humanistic Judaism would be hard work, especially if we wanted to last for a generation and another generation and a generation after that. So I got involved, and as I did, my world expanded. I realized that I felt at home in this new Jewish movement, and I recognized the opportunities it offers others who are still seeking a home within Judaism, who are still searching for a meaningful way to connect to their heritage. For those who cannot find comfort in a Judaism that explains an unjust world as God's plan. For the bride or groom who cannot find a rabbi to marry them because their fiancé is not Jewish. For the intercultural family who faces discrimination within the community they have chosen, and for their children who are told they are not really Jewish. For the GLBT couple that wants to marry. For each person who finds us after wandering and then asks, "Where have you been all my life?" Humanistic Judaism can be their home too. It can provide a welcoming community and a rich Jewish experience. It can ensure that all persons who want to celebrate a cultural Jewish identity are welcomed into the community. But all of this is possible only if the Society for Humanistic Judaism continues to exist. You see, this award does not just recognize my deeds. It's really an award for the Society, for its affiliated communities, and for what we accomplish together. The Society is not just an office, or a telephone number, or a publication. It's the collective contributions of all of its members. To ensure a Jewish future for those who celebrate humanistic Judaism requires more than just meetings, more than just interesting discussions. It requires that all of the humanistic communities support the organization that connects them, the organization that provides a voice for humanistic Jews, and it requires that individual members do the same. It is up to each of us to make that happen. The Society for Humanistic Judaism does not exist because of what I alone do. It is here because of what we all do together. I'm grateful to you all for bestowing this honor upon me. To be recognized for doing something that I love, that enriches so many lives, is truly rewarding. I'm grateful to the many friends, colleagues, and mentors who have joined me in the effort to build a strong and lasting movement. Together, we can fulfill the vision of our founders and the visions that we develop ourselves. I'm grateful to my father, who was a humanist, though I never knew it as a child. I'm grateful to my husband and children for sharing me so generously and enabling me to work for a movement that is my passion. And I'm grateful to Sherwin Wine for creating this unique and lasting experience that enriches all of our lives. Thank you.
For many years, the rabbinate and secular humanistic Judaism were deemed to be incompatible. Rabbis were religious, cultural Judaism was not. But time has changed perspectives. Our movement needs scholar leaders to serve the needs of our communities in the same way theistic Jewish congregations need the guidance of teaching rabbis. In modern times, a rabbi has become our expert in Judaism, and Judaism has become both religious and cultural. Cultural Jews need cultural rabbis.
To be a secular humanistic rabbi is to embrace many skills. It is to know and understand the Jewish literature of the past and the present. It is to teach and explain the history of the Jews with the tools of science. It is to celebrate the important times in Jewish life and in personal development with creativity and a sense of secular integrity. It is to live and present a Jewish philosophy of life that enables others to find the source of their power within themselves and within others. It is to be a prophetic voice for justice and freedom for Jews and for all people. It is to speak for our movement with learning and with wisdom. It is to champion a pluralistic Jewish world in which many belief systems find unity and solidarity in a shared historical experience.
On this evening, secular humanistic Judaism presents its future. Its future is a future of well-trained rabbis and inspiring leaders. Its future is a future of talented women and men who proudly serve our movement and the Jewish world as rabbis.
And we're thrilled to have some wonderful new colleagues, so congratulations.
Neshama is Hebrew for breath. Neshama is Hebrew for spirit. And in English, spirit becomes both respiration and inspiration. Shabbat ends with a sweet smell. Powerful memories begin with a scent. The spices of Havdala remind us of the joy of community, the beauty of rest and relaxation, and the pleasure of freedom. We remember to pause, to breathe, and to think. Havdala also marks a renewal of responsibility. We breathe in the aroma, and we return to the world around us, refreshed and rededicated. We must not only care for our own neshama, our own personal needs, we must also appreciate and celebrate kol ha-neshama, all that breathes, all of life. We pause at the end of Shabbat to savor its sweetness with deep breaths. Then we awaken to our work and shoulder that burden with joy. Do we pass around the
Why don't we
spice
smell?
box?
We'll do it demonstrated. I'd ask you to smell your neighbor, but I don't know if that would work. 10 years ago, something unprecedented took place in the Jewish world. Now, there had been Jewish heretics, Jewish skeptics, Jewish freethinkers before. In fact, the very title, Apikoros, bespeaks a sympathy with the Greek Epicurus, the doubter of gods and divine justice. We have the episodic example of Chiwi al-Balchi, whose works are lost, but whose refutation by the preeminent rabbi of his era tells us a little of what he thought and what he wrote, and how famous he really was. And the famous example of Baruch Spinoza, whose ideas were in many ways ahead of his time, and whose excommunication marked a severance from Judaism that we in Humanistic Judaism have worked to counteract and even to reverse. So that was nothing new. There have even been, in the Jewish world, what you could call a secular rabbi. There was the famous Elisha ben Avuya, also known as Acher, the other, when they didn't want to speak his name, who was trained as a rabbi, who taught other rabbis, whose teachings as a rabbi are still maintained in the Mishnah and the Talmud, and yet whose life took him beyond that pale into the world of Greek philosophy and beyond the boundaries of acceptable rabbinic practice. And there was even the case in the last 200 years of the agnostic rabbi Achad Ha'am, née Asher Ginsburg, who was an expert in Jewish culture and tradition, but also a passionate cultural Zionist and someone who broke with the past in his own meaningful way to stay connected and articulate his message. And in our own generation, we have seen Rabbi Sherwin, Rabbi Daniel Friedman, the rabbis who have been involved in this movement, who were ordained as Reform rabbis, occasionally as conservative rabbis, but evolved. They saw the light, and the light was in them. 10 years ago, at Colloquium 99, the first rabbi who was trained to be exactly what she was stepped up to be ordained. Now, the word for ordination in Hebrew is smicha. It comes from the word literally to lay on hands. It derives from the story of Joshua and Moses. When Moses was passing from the world, he passed the mantle of authority, literally by the laying on of hands, to Joshua, who then continued the story. Now, in our case, 10 years ago, as even noted in newspaper coverage, the ordination was not accomplished by the laying on of hands or by an appeal to some kind of magical power or ritual. As Sherwin said, when he was ordained, they squeezed his head until it hurt. He did not want to pass that on. In our case, our ordination was accomplished by signs of respect and signs of achievement. And those moments were burned into our brains with a very deep, deep memory. The sharing of Havdala spices, the smelling of that spice brings us back, as scent can produce the most powerful memories of our childhood, of the important moments in our lives. So how do we mark this 10th anniversary? Now, I'm not going to do a This Is Your Life Tamara Colton review. I'm not going to do a bat mitzvah replay of the 3 things I admire about you. How do you honor a rabbi? You give them a bima and a congregation, and you let them speak. But you also be sure to give them a loud round of applause. And so at this time, please welcome back to this podium Rabbi Tamara Colton.
Thank you. That is so nice. I was going to wear the same dress I wore 10 years ago. But you know, your anniversary, you never wear your wedding dress again. You buy something new, right? Well, I've thought a lot about what I would say. I want to keep it short because this is really an evening for the two people who are becoming rabbis. This is really about you, as you should fully and completely enjoy this evening and your accomplishments, Jodi and Karen. I began my ordination speech 10 years ago with a song, and if you don't know me so well, you know that I pretty much know every word to every Broadway hit. If I visit you in the hospital, if you ask for a song, I'll tell you can press the jukebox. You can get Jewish folk, you can get the 70s, or you can get a lot of Broadway. So I'm going to start with the same song that I sang from Yentl 10 years ago. And as I do, the presence of my great teacher, Rabbi Wein, is very much in me. There are moments you remember all your life. There are moments you wait for and dream of all your life. This is one of those moments. I will always remember this chair, that window, the way the light streams in, the clothes I'm wearing, the words I'm hearing, the face I'm seeing, the feelings I'm feeling, the smells, the sounds will be written in my mind, will be written in my heart for as long as I live. And as it has been 10 years, and the sounds and the smells and the faces and the windows and the chairs are written in my mind. We're going to play a bit of a Passover game. Passover, you play a what is a number. So we're going to go from 10 to 1 for every year that it's been. A decade. What is 10? 10 is the minyan that I convene. 10 is the minyan that I am fully counted in. 10 is the place of gratitude that I have never taken for granted, that I am a woman that has never been the center of attention in Humanistic Judaism as a rabbi. Although when I do weddings, they ask me almost every single wedding, and I think I have done now over 200 wedding ceremonies, if I am the party planner. 2 weeks ago, someone thought I was the bartender, which I took as a great compliment. Because the bartender can throw a party, and that was something I could do something with. I have often been mistaken for playing the flute. No, I am the rabbi. I never met a woman rabbi. Can I kiss you? Sure. I never had to explain, defend, understand my gender at the Birmingham Temple. It was an inherent gift. What is 9? 9 is 79. 9 is the age that one of the great loves of my life died. 79 are the years of his life. Imperfect, not perfect, but perfectly himself. What is 8? 8 is 1983, the day of my bat mitzvah. I got a little taste of what it's like to speak from this pulpit and to feel that I was respected and received. There's really nothing that we do better than bar bat mitzvahs. What is 7? 7 is Shabbat. What's the topic? What am I going to talk about? Who's going to come? Well, Mary and Jack will be there for sure. About 49 to 50 times a year, I have to figure out Shabbat. What is 6? 6 is the maximum amount of life cycles that one clergy person can possibly do in a weekend. Last Thanksgiving, I did a Friday morning funeral, a Friday evening, this is on record, I'll show you my books, a Friday evening bar mitzvah, a Saturday morning baby naming, a Saturday night wedding, a Sunday morning funeral, and Sunday evening after Shiva, I thought I was going to throw up. I kept calling my brother in San Francisco, my older brother who, everything's material still. He says, my sister has chuppah, we'll travel. It was kind of an amazing ride. As the rabbinate is an amazing ride because from babies to death and then again to life as babies are named after people who died, to live the circle and cycle of life in 48 hours in such an accelerated form is quite amazing, and it is unique to the life of the clergy. 5 is the total and complete preoccupation I have all year with the 5 talks I have to give on the high holidays. This great Birmingham Temple invention from Rabbi Wine, whose idea of a party was to give a 45-minute lecture, has to happen with a complete, overarching, interesting, relevant theme. 45-minute talks, 5 each, spanning over a 10-day period, well thought through, relevant, and new and original. What is 4? 4 are the 4 agreements. A little book, slightly not humanistic in some of its regard to theism, but certainly humanistic in how we live. The 4 agreements by Ruiz, I have tried to live by every single day. Number 1, always do your best. Number 2, be impeccable with your speech. Number 3, and this has been a big one for me, do not take it personally. And number 4, never make assumptions. I have said to myself, I'll just do my best, as I continue to say. And I have, honestly, done my best. I have not always been proud of my behavior. I have had to grow and stretch. I have always been strong, but I have not always been tough. And that has been a learning for me, to get a little bit tougher, to defend sometimes and protect my pulpit, which has been one of the greatest challenges for me as a rabbi. What is 3? 3 is the loss of 3 people in one massive car crash catastrophe. 2 little boys and their mother. The little boys were my campers. They had been my campers for several years, and their mother was a personal friend. How would I preside over a funeral with 3 caskets? And when I visited one of the little boys who was not alive anymore in the emergency room, I sang to him Eifo Ori, just me and Sam. It was a moment of knowing what our Kaddish is, what our Shema is, just Sam and I. What is 2? 2 are my children that weren't here 10 years ago, who have completely taken over my life. I say to my husband, we run something like room service, but that's not exactly right. As we pass each other trays, I think of, weren't children supposed to serve their parents? What was the old days? This post-enlightenment thing is so screwed up. And then I came up with the idea, you know what it really is? One parent to two children in each room calling for their food. It's an intensive care unit. It's one nurse for 2 rooms. And you know what? That's a tremendous workload. 2 children, one that was in my belly, because I've always multitasked when I was being ordained as a rabbi. The great loves of my life. And what is one? One is one movement. One is the Birmingham Temple, Humanistic Judaism. One is when I talked to my husband yesterday and I said, Isaac, what should I say? And he said, why don't you tell them that it's very rare to be able to say in your life that you are part of something completely new, that never existed before, that it is here because you built it. Why don't you tell them that it is a great thing to be part of something in your life like this movement? And those are the last 10 years made up of moments. And what I wish is that like 7 of 10 you will experience in your rabbinate, and that you will grow and that you will know the satisfaction of living the very best of this position. I thank you for listening.
Please remain standing, as we sing the song, Hatikva. Smichut, ordination. Secular humanistic Judaism is the heir to many Judaisms: Bible and Talmud, rabbi and heretic, halacha and haskalah, tradition and transformation. Jewish civilization has drawn on its past and created anew in every generation. Jewish culture is inheritance and innovation. A secular humanistic rabbi learns and teaches, receives and gives, leads and inspires. V'hamaskilim yazhiru kazohar harakia, umatzdikei harabim kakochavim le'olam va'ed. And those who are wise will shine like the brightness of the sky, and those who turn many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. Can secular humanistic rabbis make secular humanistic rabbis? The first generation of our rabbis evolved out of other movements, taking the principles of reliance on reason, enlightenment, willingness to change and even challenge tradition in response to modern beliefs in society. They took these principles to their logical extensions. When I was in Israel last December, the International Institute for Secular Humanistic Judaism ordained the second class of graduates from its Israeli program to Murah. I noted then that that was the first ordination where only secular humanistic rabbis who had been trained and ordained as secular humanistic rabbis were signing these certificates as rabbis. to testify that these new ordinees were indeed rabbis in Israel, rabbis for the Jewish people. And the same is true for us tonight. We have two professors who have taught these students to sign, and the rabbis who will sign these certificates are a sign of this generational transition in our movement. You see, a real Jewish movement sees to its own future. It creates its own leaders and rabbis. And so I would like to invite to join me on stage for the last time as civilians, Karen Levy and Jodi Kornfeld. And so I want to read to you the language of the certificate. The Faculty and Board of Governors of the International Institute for Secular Humanistic Judaism hereby certify that Karen Alda Levy and Jodi Landsman Kornfeld has fulfilled all of the requirements for graduation and is herewith ordained as indeed rabbi, and is authorized and licensed to perform all rabbinical functions as a representative of the Jewish people. Detroit, Michigan, United States of America, this 24th day of October 2009. And in the Hebrew it asks, Torah, Torah, can she teach? She can teach. Taskil, Taskil, can she enlighten? She will enlighten. On the 7th day of the month of Cheshvan in the year 5770. And so, what remains is the signing and the hugging. And so it is my privilege to be able to step to these documents along with Rabbi Sivan Mas, our Dean for Israel of the International Institute for Secular Humanistic Judaism, to begin the process of formally ordaining our two newest rabbis. And now I invite our ordinees to remain standing as we invite forward our rabbis and teachers who will sign the ordination certificates. And first I would like to invite forward Rabbi Tamara Colton and Rabbi Miriam Jeris. Now I'd like to invite forward from the University of Michigan, Professor Brian Schmidt and Professor Gabriele Boccaccini. now I'd like to invite forward Professor Yolanda Fleischer and Rabbi Binyamin Biber. Finally, I'd like to invite forward Rabbi Eva Goldfinger, Rabbi Greg Epstein, and Rabbi Judith Seid. There is one thing left to accomplish this process of ordination, and no, it is not the laying on of hands. And no, it is not wishing them a Yasher Koach because Jacques Berliner-Blau has banned it from public vocabulary. And it is not even to wish them Mazal Tov because it's wishing them good luck, and they don't need luck. What we wish them is Bahatzlacha, success, and good work in their life going forward, and most importantly, we offer our testimony and acclamation with loud applause. At a traditional ordination, two questions are asked and answered. Yoreh, Yoreh, can he teach? He can teach. Yadin, Yadin, can he judge? He can judge. When you ordain a secular humanistic rabbi, our questions are similar and yet distinct, and not only because the Hebrew grammar changes when you're talking to women. Of course, the traditional ordination never envisioned having to change the grammar. We can ask, Toreh, Toreh, can she teach? She can teach. Taskil, Taskil, can she enlighten? She can enlighten. One of the most famous rabbis of his generation was what we would today call a lifetime learner, Rabbi Akiva. Supposedly did not start his rabbinic learning until he was 40, and he was only able to succeed because of the steadfast support of his wife Rachel. In fact, the story is that she even sold her hair to enable him to pursue his studies. When we write the saga of Rabbi Jodi Kornfeld and Rabbi Karen Levy, we will have to include David and Gary, who appears have made a similar sacrifice. Now tonight is truly a celebration of their families, of course, and of their supportive partners in life. But most importantly, it is a celebration of Karen and of Jodi. And just as we celebrated Rabbi Colton with an opportunity to speak, I will again be brief and give them room to speak. They will come forward, they will light a Havdala candle to represent the many strands of their lives, the many moments that come together in this moment and inspire all of us. Jodi Kornfeld found Humanistic Judaism in search of a congregation for her family, a school for her children, and of course she soon began running the school and teaching in the school, ultimately being a school director, organizing national conferences for humanistic Jewish educators. And when her own community, Beth Chaverim, was formed, Jodi realized something I learned a long time ago, a teaching of the Jewish sage Mel Brooks. It's good to be the king. She has earned her master's degree in Jewish studies at the Spertus College for Jewish Studies in Chicago, where she is pursuing her doctoral degree as well. Her work has always been of high quality through our institute and in everything she does in our movement, and it is a privilege to be able to celebrate her ordination this evening. Karen Levy has been involved in our movement for almost 30 years. 30 years. She was in the first class of Madrichim and Madrichot who graduated from the International Institute's first program, its leadership program. She worked for many years as a school director in the community, now taking that next leap forward. She edited a key primary school curriculum along with Rabbi Eva Goldfinger. She was a co-editor of an important source book of our early modern European roots, which, by the way, we'll have for sale at the book table tomorrow if you want her to autograph it with the new title. She's earned her master's degree in Judaic Studies at York University in Toronto, and again, her work has always been thorough and excellent, whether for the Institute or anything else that she does. And so it is my privilege to welcome to this podium, for the first time, Rabbi Jodi Kornfeld and Rabbi Karen Levy.
Distinguished guests, faculty, friends, and family, I want to convey to you tonight my values, my community, my philosophy, and my attitudes in 5 words. I am a Cubs fan. Indeed, with so many members of my family and Beth Chaverim here, it feels a little bit like when the Cubs play a road game. You see, as a Cubs fan, I have a deep and abiding respect for what has come before and an understanding of the importance of history. I recognize the tension between continuity and change, tradition and modernity. I know what loyalty means, and I know why optimism is so important. Perseverance and empathy are traits well honed. I have learned empirically the futility of prayer. I understand that life is not always fair, but one must nevertheless maintain one's integrity. I appreciate the impact of intergenerational experiences, of creating meaningful ritual, and of engaging in the oral tradition of storytelling. My family annually retells the story of the day my son was born 25 years ago when the Cubs took a doubleheader from the Mets. My calendar is punctuated by a new year that does not coincide with any secular calendar, but instead begins with the day pitchers and catchers report for spring training. On that day, the long winter ends, even if it is still February in Chicago, and a new year filled with hope and promise begins. I can tell you that memory, collective and personal, is crucial to who we are and how we define ourselves. I am, you see, a Cubs fan, bringing all these sensibilities to what I do. And tonight, 5 more words convey these same things to you. I, a humanistic Jewish rabbi. "40 years ago next month, I celebrated my bat mitzvah in a conservative congregation. At that time, girls, by law and by custom, were not allowed to read from the Torah or celebrate their bat mitzvah on Saturday morning. I chanted a Haftorah portion that I cannot recall today and that made no lasting impression on me. It was not until Beth Chaverim acquired a Torah some 4 years ago that I had my first opportunity to read directly from that scroll. Of course, I never felt that the scroll or its contents were inaccessible on a theological basis, nor that it was the repository of all things Jewish. Yet, too many people feel that way about Judaism, that it is contained in a dusty old book, put on the highest shelf, out of reach and out of touch for reasons that make no sense. Of course, humanistic Judaism radically changes that equation. It is accessible, celebratory, meaningful. It means that we take ownership of this wonderful treasure that is our inheritance. It is not static or stagnant, but impressionable and malleable. It is subject to what educator Zohar Raviv calls traditioning. There is no one Jewish tradition, no singular way to express being Jewish. We are free from the constraints of a monolithic Judaism, liberated from unbending rules and uncompromising ones that otherwise harness our Jewish sense of self. This presents such exciting and creative opportunities for us to reimagine, reconfigure, and reposition our ceremonies and celebrations. As a humanistic Jewish rabbi, I recognize the privilege I have to participate in the most intimate moments of people's lives as they marry or welcome a child or mourn the death of a loved one. I am fortunate to educate their children and to foster their exploration of life's most profound questions. My position as rabbi requires community, for indeed we are a communal people. We celebrate together and we grieve together. By way of making this point, I want to share with you my favorite story of the Torah. It comes in Numbers 12 and tells the story of Miriam's challenge to Moses' authority and to the biblical God. She lays claim to her status as a prophetess, a leader of the people. For her audacity, she is stricken with leprosy and, more importantly, shut out of camp for 7 days. Despite her infraction and her punishment, the story tells us that the story tells us that the people would not and did not move on until she was readmitted. This demonstrates Miriam's importance to her community and the people's recognition of Miriam as a leader. This story is exceedingly personal for me and the journey that has led to this day. I have been sustained by a supportive community. This community would not set out on a new course unless I was not merely a part of it, but at its forefront. A leader needs a community, and a community requires its leader as we mutually nourish one another. Together, we learn, we struggle with existential questions, we support each other. We put our ethics into action as we seek to repair an all too often wounded world. I am so proud to lead my community and join the ranks of the leadership of our movement. Occasions such as these are opportunities for expressions of gratitude and thanks. This is no exception. I am so fortunate to celebrate my ordination with my mom, who's here tonight. I am joined by my inspirations, my children, Ben and Emma, of whom I am so proud. To my husband of 30 years, David, your support is unwavering and your challenges make me better. I thank the many members of Beth Chaverim who traveled here today as we realize this dream together. I am grateful to Rabbi Adam Shalom for his leadership. To my extraordinary teachers in this program, thank you for sharing your knowledge and your expertise. To my colleagues, thank you for your generosity of spirit and kindness. I extend a hearty mazal tov to Karen and her family. Finally, in a perfect world, Rabbi Sherwin would be here to see his students ordained and the Institute fulfill its mission. But Sherwin taught us well that this is an uncertain world and we are not at its center. Though our hearts still ache at his loss, we, the first rabbis ordained since his death, accept the responsibility of his legacy and the authority that comes with being ordained in this movement. Theodore Herzl said, "If you will it, it is not a dream." And in the baseball classic Field of Dreams, the lead character was told, "If you build it, they will come." Those words echo for the Cubs fan that I am and the humanistic rabbi I have become. With so much love in my heart, I thank you.
Dean Shalom, Dean Malcolm Mas, President Masters, and board members of the Institute, rabbis, madrichim, and wegweisers, members of the Birmingham Temple and Orenu congregation, and all our sister communities, and my honored teachers. I joyfully accept ordination and take my place beside my rabbinic colleagues. Last week, I was on my way to a very important meeting. Got my coat, my purse, my keys, got in the car. When I started thinking about where I was going, my heart began to race. My palms were sweating. Was I going on a big date? Was I meeting the Prime Minister? No, I was going to an Orenu board meeting. Where's Jim? The thing is, I love my work. And after 27 years of involvement at Orenu, it still revs me up. I have wanted to be a rabbi since I was a kid. It's been a long road, and the last part of the journey really began when Gary and I discovered Orenu Congregation, the CSJO, and the Society for Humanistic Judaism. I will never forget my first international conference of secular and humanistic Jews here in this room in 1986. Those were heady days. Sherwin, Miriam, Max, and Bess, and many others were connecting with our brothers and sisters worldwide to form the Federation and this institute. As soon as the leadership training program rolled out, Eva Goldfinger and I leapt at the chance to train as madrichot. When the Institute created the rabbinic program and then several years later arranged to have the classes in the summer, and it was the same year that my youngest son graduated from high school, I finally had the chance to become a rabbi. I literally would not be standing here today were it not for the support of many people. And I regret I can only mention a few. Eva, as much as I wanted to be a rabbi, I am not sure I would have signed on without your resolve to do this together and your steadfast love and friendship. And to all of my dearest friends and colleagues, Eva, Lisa, Robbie, Sandy, and Steve, who could not be here today, your tireless ability to absorb work is legendary. There were many times I had to drop the ball in your laps. You never complained, and in fact, you always kept my spirits high with your creativity and enthusiasm. To my many friends and family in Orenu congregation, you have given me so much moral support and encouragement. Knowing that you believed in what I was doing and that it would be good for our congregation gave me the energy to persevere. I am so very grateful to all of you. And to those of you who are here today with me this evening, thank you for coming and making this moment so sweet. I will be forever grateful to Sherwin and Adam and their right hand, Marilyn Rowans, and to all the generous benefactors of the Institute for the opportunity you provided to our students to learn with the most outstanding scholars and teachers. They are stars in the field of Jewish studies. My beloved partner, Gary, you have always encouraged me and our children to pursue our dreams. Your love and example have been the wind in my sails. And this milestone is made all the more special by having two of our children, Jack and Adam, and my beloved mother, Shirley, with us tonight. Speaking of my mother and growing up, I like to joke about my upbringing, which I believe was in the confusative tradition. My parents were secular Jews who were very involved in Hadassah and the Jewish hospital in Toronto. We lived in an Anglo-Saxon neighborhood. My aunts and uncles ranged from Orthodox to communist. We belonged to a conservative synagogue where I attended Hebrew school and became bat mitzvah. I went to a Reform camp and a Presbyterian high school with Miss Forsyth's scripture class every Monday. But I knew who I was. When my Catholic babysitter took me to church and handed me a rosary and told me to pray, I said, Baruch atah Adonai. I did know who I was. I have always felt a deep bond to the Jewish people and our culture, and I have always had a profound faith in the primacy of human beings. Because of my background, I am comfortable working with different people wherever their spiritual journeys take them. The community involvement of my parents taught me the power of perseverance to overcome injustice and anti-Semitism. They taught me the power of people working together to build a better world, whether it was through the beauty of art or through medical science, whether it was in Toronto or Tel Aviv. Today, at Oreinu, we are very fortunate to have many leaders and many very active members, and I know that together we can accomplish so much. I want to work with our members to make our congregation even stronger, to create new programs for different interests and age groups, to provide more opportunities to learn about Judaism and humanism. I intend to work with our educators to upgrade our curriculum, to update it, and our youth programs, and with Eva to plan a full program of adult education under her guidance. I want us to grow so that we can provide pastoral care to our members who need it. We will beautify our meeting place and bring even more music into our hall. We will work to engage young people. That means we have to start tweeting and using the social media and meeting in pubs. I look forward to it. I'm not kidding. I want to promote and further the message and values of humanistic Judaism wherever we can. If Judaism and humanism are meaningful parts of our lives, then we will be confident ambassadors in spreading our philosophy. Oreinu has a big responsibility. As the only society congregation in Canada, we have to be the flagship in Canada for humanistic Jews. But we cannot do this alone. I want to work with our members to reach out into the communities that surround us. We have already made a difference in our political advocacy for abortion rights, for gender-related rights, and for publicly funded education. We have made a difference through supporting community service and tzedakah in our own city, in Israel, in New Orleans, in Indonesia, and in the Sudan, to name just a few places. We have made a difference by providing hundreds of Jews in Toronto with a way to celebrate Jewish holidays and life cycle passages consistent with a secular and humanistic worldview. And we are not alone. Toronto has a Jewish population that is close to 200,000. We at Oreinu are part of our federation, where I hope we will play a more active role. We have in Toronto very successful humanitarian and social service organizations like the Havdala, which we will continue to work with. We are not alone as secular Jews. UJPO, Workman's Circle, and the secular progressive Zionist movements, Hashomer Hatzair and Habanim Dror, they are our natural partners. 25% of Toronto's Jewry is from Israel. We must try and connect with them. And in fact, we are the ideal city for Tamura students who would like to intern for a while in North America. We are not alone as secular humanists. The Center for Inquiry, the Canadian Humanist Association, the Muslim Canadian Congress, and the Unitarian Universalists. These are also our natural partners. We will not agree on everything. We don't have to in order to work together. There is so much work to be done. We can find our common ground to till. In conclusion, the best part of what many rabbis do never sees the light of day. It is the behind-the-scenes work of creating a harmonious congregational culture of tolerance, appreciation, and compassion for ourselves. I believe that how we work together is just as important as what we do. What defines us as much as our innovations and our philosophy is that we listen to each other, we support each other, we work together with sensitivity for individuals because we each have our peculiar foibles and desires, that we have fun, that we feel enriched by knowing each other, and that we resolve our conflicts and handle our differences with dignity and respect. It's been a long evening, and we have a lot more serious learning to do tomorrow. So I will close, as I close my comments, I'm thinking about Orenu's Holocaust Education Program coming up this Thursday, and my meeting on Tuesday with a bat mitzvah family. So rev up the engines, my hands are sweaty, my heart is racing, let's get to work.
This moment is a sign of the life force of the Jewish people. Why spend our time complaining when there's so much to celebrate? We have a song that celebrates the life of the Jews. It is on page 9 of your service booklet. The words are Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people lives.
Please sing together.
The last Havdala ritual joins wine and flame, rest and work, Shabbat and the week, the past and the future. We are strengthened by our diversity. We are inspired by our creativity, and we find hope and courage in the power of our ideas. How good it is to face this future together.
And then all that has divided us will merge. And then compassion will be wedded to power. And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind. And then both men and women will be gentle. And then both women and men will be strong. And then no person will be subject to another's will. And then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth, and then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
And as the candles are extinguished, the light has ended, and yet the light is within us. It is our joy that we feel at this moment that we need to express to each other. It is the end of Shabbat and the beginning of a week, the end of a process of study and the end of a ceremony and the beginning of a life as teachers and leaders in Jewish life. And so our closing song is a celebration of this end of Shabbat and the beginning of a week. Shavua Tov, we sing it 3 times through, first in Hebrew, and then in Yiddish, and then together in English. Please feel free to join me. Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov. Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov. A gute Woche, 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 a good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. And please turn to the people near you and wish them Shavua Tov.